Back on the scene again. As you know, it's Thursday. You know what? Usually, whenever I know it's Thursday, I get really excited. I do better at the gym. I wake up on a positive note because I know it's going to be fun because I'm going to be meeting great people that's going to be chilling with me in the studio for a whole hour. We're going to have a great conversation. And I'm not really faking it. I'm being real, by the way. Big shout outs to Najla Al Fardan joining me in the studio. Well-rounded Najla, who's an entrepreneur, nutritionist, skincare consultant, and wellness expert, and also in 2020, Najla started Qatar's first conscious beauty platform, Quero, bringing the best clean beauty brands to the region. And a few months later, she introduced Orange Theory Fitness to the country, and also we're going to be talking about Under the Sea. Big shout outs to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Shaheen. I'm excited to get a little deep with you.
Oh yeah. We got a whole hour of conversation, so you better prepare for it. Big shout outs to everyone who's joining in. I hope you got great plans. It's Thursday, right?
I mean, it's just going to be dinner, just
okay.
a nice...
Okay, so we didn't ruin your plans for the night.
You didn't. So far, no.
I got to double check because every time we get someone in the studio, I got to make sure we don't ruin their plans.
No, I think this is my biggest plan today.
All right, glad to know. So before we get to ask about Under the Sea and stuff, this is a standard question for us here in the studio. We want people to know a bit about yourself. So can you tell us?
So a little bit about me. I started Kioro around 2 years ago. Okay. And in our last conversation that we had this conversation about how Kioro came about, which was really an outcome of all of my experiences around health, wellness, clean beauty. It started, when I was much younger. I was very into this topic. I was obese when I was younger. I had a lot of digestive issues. Around uni, I had some mild acne. And the biggest thing that I learned was that all of these things are interrelated. So I created a Kioro, which is a conscious beauty platform that really tells the story that, skincare is so much more than the products that you put. It's your diet, it's your lifestyle, it's your gut health. I talk a lot about digestion. It's my favorite topic.
I remember you had to mention that when we were recording. And it
I
caught me off
always
guard.
have to mention it.
I do. I've seen some of your lives and I was like, oh.
Yeah, so that's my favorite topic.
For sure.
And I just recently launched Under the Sea, which is a game of connection. And it's really all about, getting deep and vulnerable with each other to really experience true connection.
We'll talk about Under the Sea in specific for the next couple of questions. By the way, you did give me a look when I told you I don't use skin, what is it called? Sunblock?
Sunblock. You gotta use sunblock, man.
Oh, man. You guys should have seen the look you gave me.
Shaheen.
I felt like I was primitive in a way.
You can do better.
I'm still working on that. So, big shout outs to you. We wanted to know also, so you're interested in different things and working in several projects. Very handful, by the way, such as mental health, nutrition, skincare. How do you see those things combined? Which one is the closest to your heart and why?
Well, I think all of my business ventures, I think the thread or what they have in common is that they all go back to this idea of self-care and self-awareness. It's all about living a wholesome life. And a lot of my businesses really came about from a life experience. So from Kioro, it was, my whole experience around clean beauty and wellness, and education is a huge part for me. It's really about educating people how to live a more holistic, a high quality life. And so I do that through Kioro, through educating people about what are the factors that influence their appearance, from gut health to nutrition, to skincare. And then with Under the Sea, again, it's all about self-awareness. It's all about building those true connections, which lie beneath the surface, hence the name Under the Sea. And so at the moment, I would say Under the Sea is the one that's the closest to me because I just launched it. And it has such a powerful initiative because it really touches upon a fundamental human need, which is the need of connection and belonging.
Because I've been following you from the start, and I've noticed that you had a couple of shifts in your interest.
I did.
And at the start, it was skincare and then nutrition at the same time frame. And all of a sudden, I've seen you focus a lot on human connection, human bonding, mental healing. And for some reason, I was interested of this quick shift. Like, why did it happen all of a sudden? But in my mind, somehow I realized that they're all interconnected in a way.
it's all interconnected, and it really tells a little bit of a behind the scenes of kind of what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
So when that shift happened was around, I would say, a year ago.
Okay.
That's also when I experienced, or when I was diagnosed with a very difficult condition, which
Okay.
is chronic nerve pain on the face. And at that time, my mental health really deteriorated. And I really had to find a way to tell my story and to figure out how to cope. And so that's kind of when I was visible about it on my social media. And it made me realize that I'm not alone in my experience, that there were so many other people experiencing chronic pain.
I have to admit, I do enjoy the interactions on your page. Usually, people are not very interactive here in town when it comes to social media. But I do notice that they're very interactive on your page when it comes to especially skincare or mental health.
Yeah.
Have you realized that you have been adding a bit of a positive feedback to people here in the community in a way?
I do feel like, I think it just goes back to the idea of being real
Okay.
and vulnerable.
Oh yeah, that's all.
You know?
That's what it's all about.
And genuine.
Yeah.
So I think that's my secret sauce.
Okay. Don't be spilling the sauce like this. So we got so many great questions down the road, but in the meantime, we got to spin a quick track. Day and Night by Kid Cudi, taking you back in time. It's all about throwbacks today.
Clearly.
Yeah. So if we get a chance to spin some Afrobeats, she's a big fan of Afrobeats. Big shout outs to also Sundus, Surqaya in the house, joining me in the studio, Hisham behind the glass. Stick around. Did you hear this collaboration before?
I actually didn't.
Really?
No.
Oh man, they've been doing some great stuff. I'm a big fan of Khaled. I don't know if you like his music, American Teen. No, not a fan. Oh man, no man. We need to play more Khaled for you guys. Introduce you to a bit of the culture. So, the word culture is kind of weird, isn't it?
It really is.
Right?
I don't get it.
Yeah, me too.
don't
But it
think
sounds
I've
cool when you say it, right?
It sounds cool, but there's a lot of layers there.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. So we're talking about holistic well-being. Most of your ventures focus on well-being.
Yeah.
Why so?
You know, I really think that, I don't think I chose it. I think it chose me.
Oh, wow.
I think holistic well-being chose me.
You should have been here last week with Khalifa. He was talking about career consulting. So
Really?
maybe.
I don't know. I think, you know, when I think about the series of events that just happened in my life, I think it just really all tied back to different events that came back to self-care, self-awareness, and really trying to navigate that on your own. So I think holistic well-being chose me.
Really?
Yeah.
Very interesting. We wanted to talk more about mental health part, but this actually takes me to the most important, part why you're here today. What inspired you to launch Under the Sea Game, and why is it named Under the Sea?
So it's an interesting story. It actually happened in the midst of COVID, when, lockdown was going on and, we weren't gathering anymore. And at that time, I was starting to feel a sense of loneliness.
Okay.
And that was also the time where I started to experience the chronic pain. And so I decided to take a trip with my friends to Seychelles.
Okay.
And it was a very intimate experience. It was just me and two other girls, and we started to play a game and started asking one another questions. And I realized that there was so much more to people that I knew. I've known these girls for so many years, and I realized that we had so much more in common, and we were going through the same things.
They're probably... Sometimes it's really basic questions.
It's sometimes so basic.
Like, what's your favorite color, for example? Right?
Or, what's the story behind your name? Or, when was the last time you cried and why? And what I realized is that we all experience these shared emotions, whether that be sadness, sorrow, grief, pain, happiness. It's just the stories that are different. And so when I came back, I was thinking about it, and I said to myself, oh my goodness, I'm so done with surface level conversations.
Okay.
And then I started to sing the song in my head, Under the Sea, The Little Mermaid.
You serious?
I started singing it. I'm like,
that's it.
This is it. That's the name, Under the Sea, because it's all about going beneath the surface.
And diving deeper.
Diving deeper and realizing that there's so much depth to you.
Yeah, as a human being.
Yeah.
There's so many layers. I remember I was listening to this podcast. I was talking also about being
specialize in something as a human being. A lot of us, we focus on specializing in a certain career, and then we forget all the aspects in our true entities that we can explore. For example, I could be an athlete, but I never had the chance to be an athlete. I could be a painter, but I've never actually experienced. So to venture in so many great aspects of yourself that you don't get a chance to actually know about yourself, because you're just so focused on, because let's be honest, a lot of the times we just focus on very minimal things in our life, which is education, a job and a career, and that's it. You know what I mean? But you don't really venture outside that box to discover who you are as a human being. You never ask these questions.
You never ask the right questions.
And I do remember we had this kind of talk, me and Khalifa, when it comes to career consulting back last week. There, a lot of people just don't ask themselves deep questions.
Yeah. I think we get very tied up with our lives, with this very fast-paced life, that we don't take a moment to really sit down and ask ourselves these questions.
You sent me a box of the game, and I actually had to go through it. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be honest. I had to read some of the questions, and I personally didn't want to answer them to myself. I was like, okay, I'm skipping this one. Put the card down. I'm going to the next one, and then it just keeps getting somehow more. The questions kept getting more deep and deep, and I was like, yeah. So I put the box, and I was like, that's it.
Done.
That's it. I'm not playing this for the moment.
It's deep.
It is. But can you explain to our listeners like the rules of the game itself?
Yeah. So the best rule that I created is that there are no rules.
Oh yeah.
That's the plot twist that I have for you. There's no rules.
Okay.
It's 2 decks. One is called Testing Waters. So that's a deck where you play with new friendships, where you're just kind of trying to test it out a little bit. You don't want to go too deep.
Yeah.
Then you've got Deep Dive. So those are the very deep questions. You would play that with close friends. You would play that with your family, your partner. And then you've got a boundary card. That is
the rescue card.
A rescue. I call it a boundary card. We call it a rescue card.
I kept pulling that every time the question was.
I don't want to answer that. So I wanted to give you guys that privilege, because your story is the privilege to be heard, and I wanted to honor that for people and make sure that they can flash that when they don't feel comfortable enough to share.
That's a very smart way to put a game. Like, how long did you work on it for?
I worked on it for about 6 to 8 months, because the challenging part of it was the questions. It's 100 questions each, and I really had to figure out what are the questions that bring out a story in people. And so that I had to do a lot of research for that. I started to think about the people in my life and what their stories are, and what question would I ask someone to pull out those stories and to pull out those shared emotions. So it took around 6 to 8 months to complete it.
That's not a bad period.
Yeah.
That's not a bad period at all. Because when I was looking through it, I really realized that some people, might actually get triggered.
They can.
They can get triggered by
It's a triggering game.
It is, and I was like, ooh, because I was personally getting triggered.
Yeah.
I was like, do I really want to venture and ask myself these questions? At the beginning, I thought it was just like, what's your favorite color?
No. It's not some of those questions.
Yeah. So storytelling is a very ancient art.
It is.
It really is. So how can we use it to connect with others in real life, not just through a game?
So with storytelling, the basis of it, it's been around for years, and it's been a mechanism for people to connect with one another.
Yeah.
Because it implies, or it implements, this sense of curiosity, this openness, and an ability to relate with one another through these shared emotions of sadness, sorrow, grief. It's really what you can take out of the game is you can experience a sense of connection and storytelling through all of these experiences, and you can take that out of your life by being curious with one another, being open to each other, being non-judgmental to one another, and being a little bit vulnerable. It does require you to tap into these delicate parts of you and to explore that and to share that.
Just also a part of the game itself. A lot of the times we don't use the art of questioning with our day-to-day life, even with friends or families. I've known people, for example, 16, 17 years, even childhood friends.
Yeah.
When I was reading some of the questions, I was like, I've never asked them these questions a day in my life. Not that they're, crazy intimate. It's just I never sat down and actually had the curiosity to ask them. It never came into my head.
Right.
But I did realize if I did play this with a childhood friend, for example, I would be shocked of all the answers because I don't know this part.
You don't know this part.
I don't know his journey, you know?
Right.
You see just the surface.
Yeah.
Or the journey you share together. But then he has his own journey.
His own journey.
She has her own journey. Everybody has their own journey. And they don't really sometimes vocalize it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So we got more questions for you. But what we're going to do, we're going to spin a track. We got some great tunes for you on this Thursday. You got to enjoy this one, Celebrate by DJ Cal. And afterwards, we got Change Your Mind by Dylan Francis featuring Lovely the Band, Californication, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Man, I really love this song. I'm serious.
I don't know it.
You've been stuck on this sentence the whole time. We need to update your
moment.
music list.
You do.
I'm exposing you to the public. What are you doing? We keep playing all these top 40s, all these new albums. Guys, come on. You need to update your music list if you're listening to us.
We really do.
Yeah. But you know what? It's an absolute favorite of mine. The Pokemon 25th version by Post Malone, Only Want to Be With You. We got also Shine Your Life, Master KG, and we got Album of the Week. So every week we choose an album to spin for you guys. The whole tracks and to tell you more about the artist and the inspiration behind your work or their work. But for now, we're going to focus more on our great guest joining us in the studio. Big shout outs to you, Najla. We wanted to talk more about Under the Sea.
Yeah.
Is it a possibility that this game could help people develop connection skills in real life?
Right. I definitely think so because I think Under the Sea gives you the building blocks of connection. Which, as I mentioned, it really does require that sense of vulnerability. That's the most important thing. There's a quote that I love by Brené Brown.
Okay.
And she says that vulnerability is the birthplace of connection.
Oh, wow.
So it really, it forces you to kind of practice that a little bit. It lets you practice this idea of non-judgment, of being curious, of knowing what questions kind of bring out these shared emotions. So a lot of our customers, they take it with them to work as well.
Really?
They play it with their colleagues. They play with their friends and family. And it's a very small box. I wanted it to be nice and small so that you can take it anywhere with you.
No, it's actually very practical.
Yeah.
My cats were all over the box for something,
I
but
think they're saying, Shaheen, don't answer the question.
don't answer the questions. Just take it
Too
away.
much.
Take it away. You know, but this actually takes me to just a quick comment on what you said. I feel like in order for you to really do connect with people, you do have to be vulnerable.
You do.
A lot of the times, we don't really like to expose our genuine self. We somehow, we're very layered.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many shields. And it somehow could prevent us, or it actually does prevent us from really communicating properly.
Yeah.
That's why I do enjoy people who are, especially in any kind of conversation, whether it's my podcast ventures or here in the studios, when I'm talking about the artist's journey. A lot of the times I enjoy when a musician, for example, really genuinely talks about a true inspiration behind a song out of vulnerability. Like, this is what really happened to me, and this is the actual inspiration behind the song. And at that moment, I do connect, and I understand the lyrics more, and I understand, for example, the inspiration behind whatever initiative that it is.
Yeah.
So I do get it when you said vulnerability is really a key to it.
Right. You know? And even, again, going back to Brené Brown, who's a social researcher specifically on shame.
Okay.
She says that, you know, vulnerability is the birthplace of connection, and it's also the same space where we experience shame.
Yeah.
At the same time, vulnerability exposes you to your creativity, you know, to love, to belonging, to connection. So you can't have one without the other. And I think the reason why we are so scared of our vulnerability is because it does bring out that sense of shame. And the reality is that we are a shame-based culture.
Yeah.
You know, and we see that with
mental health, for example.
Mental health, you know, like people pleasing or comparison or competition, you know, and the intention for Under the Sea is for you to be able to share your truth and your reality so that you can metabolize these emotions.
A while back, we did have a guest here in the studio. We were talking about mental health, and one of the main brackets that they focused on was the shame culture.
Yep.
When it comes to mental health itself. Like, a lot of the times the conversation just doesn't go out there because we're ashamed of the conversation itself. So
you gotta have the conversation.
You gotta have the conversation in order for you to start healing, right?
Yeah.
Did you get any inspiring feedbacks that made you feel like you reached the goal behind this game? If so, please share with us.
I did. I've gotten a lot of responses by people saying, you know, I really didn't know my husband as much as I thought that I did. I'm like, oh wow. Well, then I'm glad that I gave this to you.
Hope that didn't lead to divorce as well.
Or, you know, I've had that comment a couple times. Like, is this gonna get us closer, or are we gonna get a divorce?
Oh wow.
But I've had a lot of customers tell me, you know, I've played this with my best friends, and I've never experienced connection like I have right now. I felt like I'm not alone in what I'm going through, and I think that was everything to me, because the intention was to make you feel like you are not alone in your experience.
Yeah, definitely. I'm bringing this to QBS Radio, so
bring it, do it.
I'm looking at all the producers, social media team.
Let's get vulnerable.
Yeah. Nobody's gonna be doing the show on Thursday night.
Bye.
Everybody's gonna be emotional on Thursday night.
Yeah.
You know? That's really great to hear, because that's something that I think everybody would really want to, achieve by doing anything. They like the feedbacks.
Yeah.
Whether it's constructive criticism or it's positive feedback.
Right.
Before we continue our conversation, we do have a track. We're talking about album of the week. Today we're spinning the 5th track of this week's album, Don't Say I Didn't Warn You by Najla. The album is a brash and self-assured work. It's an R&B project that takes cues from hip-hop's confidence. Here's the 5th track, titled Beautiful Lies. Change your mind on your number one hit music station, KBS Radio. We got around 6 minutes of reaching the 7 o'clock news bulletin with Wanda, which will give us a time to ask a couple of questions. And speaking of mental health, how do you... what's in your opinion? Why is mental health, or how is mental health very important nowadays?
I think it's super important, you know, going back to when we were talking about how we're living in a very fast-paced, on-the-go lifestyle alongside experiencing a global pandemic. I think mental health, when it's not being talked about, can cause a lot of dysfunction.
Yeah.
And, you know, the idea here is that we're all going through our own struggles. You know, we're all going through, whether that be a loss or whether that be whatever our reality is. And I think it's super important for us to talk about it, to be able to process it and heal from it and metabolize that and, you know, really let that go. And I think that's also a reason why we're seeing a lot of overindulgence of our senses. In Ayurveda, it's an ancient 5,000-year-old ancient healing system that I'm also studying. It says that one of the 3 main causes of disease is misuse of senses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that with whether that be overindulging, binge eating, overeating, over Netflix binging, or over drinking. And my question that I'm curious about is, what are we trying to run away from? Why are we numbing ourselves?
Overworking also.
Overworking, you know, hiding in our work and our job. I know I've done that a few times.
Look, honestly, I got to comment on this. I feel like being the culture of overworking is being so popular nowadays.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I keep seeing this on Instagram posts, on Twitter, people talking. And for some reason, I feel like that's just not a healthy culture if you really overwork it.
It's not. And the reality is that you're running away from something.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I want to know what is it that you're running away from. Let's talk about it. Let's process those emotions. Because again, once you know what your reality is, once you're able to share your truth, you're able to process that and let that go. There's a beautiful quote actually that says, we heal in relationship and we also hurt in relationship. And there's another phrase that I really like in a book. It's called the 6th stage of grief, which is finding meaning. And he says that your grief or your sorrow needs to be witnessed. You need to have someone witness and hold space for your reality in order for you to be able to process it.
Why is that?
It's a very controversial understanding, but one, it facilitates healing, as well as there's a good amount of research that says that emotions that have not been processed can sit in your body, and it can sit in a specific organ that is like that emotion. So for example, and in Ayurveda and ancient Chinese medicine, they say like grief and sorrow that sits in your chest. Repressed anger can sit in your liver. And the idea is, if you do not metabolize and let go of that emotion, it can cause a physical disease in your body. So very similar if you were, let's say, to eat food. Imagine that food just was stuck there for years. You never processed it. Eventually, that can cause some harm in your colon. It's the same thing with emotions. There's a beautiful book that talks completely about that, called The Body Keeps Score. And it talks about how stuck emotions in the body can translate into physical symptoms. And so again, the idea for Under the Sea there is, let's metabolize it. Let's process it. Let's let it go.
That's something that I really applaud on. I really do, because not just the idea of running away or processing emotions. A lot of times we live through life and we don't ask certain questions. And that itself, it piles up. And then you do end up having a lot of physical issues that do develop through time. And I did witness that on certain with especially athletes that go through pressure, because I have a lot of friends who are athletes, football players and stuff like that, and I see that through the pressure from the game, from the stress, certain traumas throughout their athletic life, and they never get a chance to actually, because they're always in a rush, because they're always preparing for a camp, they're always preparing for a game, they're always preparing for, and therefore you end up piling a lot of stress. And then when do you actually let go? Okay, a lot of times we say, I'm gonna go on a vacation, I'm gonna let go of the stress, but you're talking about the surface level stress.
Exactly.
You're not really talking about that deep kind of stress.
That deep one that requires you to really sit down
and talk to yourself,
and talk and process.
See, that's one of the big parts why I applaud social media nowadays. Not even that, just the fact that human IQ has really did increase in the past 10 years. But it did raise a lot of questions about a lot of topics that we lived through life. I mean, we come from a generation where we witnessed the times before social media and after social media. So you do realize that, there's so many topics that we never had a chance to talk to or talk about before social media. We're going to take a quick pause because we got the 7 o'clock news bulletin. I think we're going a bit deep on a Thursday, right?
We are.
We're going to be fun for you guys, I promise. We got so many great tracks coming up your way, but we got to finish our conversation with our guest joining us here in the studio. Big shout outs to you, Najla. So moving on from mental health, we want to talk about your previous project, which is Kioro. You never say that right. Kioro. So can you tell us more about it, and how did you get into that field?
I got into that field. It was a series.
I just have to announce that you did finance. I mean, you just because you come from like a whole different world.
It's I don't get it either.
Exactly.
But it did help me.
Career counseling, people.
Yeah, career counseling, man. But it helped me a lot with Kioro and with Under the Sea, at least with understanding the financials of it. Okay. But Kioro came about, again, it was just a series of events throughout my life from...
What does it mean?
Kioro. So it's 2 words that I combined together.
Okay.
Kokoro in Japanese means mind, body, soul, and spirit as one. And Ki or Chi in ancient Chinese medicine is energy flow. So I connected them together and created the word Kioro.
So you made a word up.
I made a word.
Okay.
And it's basically a sum of parts. That's our slogan, a sum of parts.
Okay.
And the idea is that we view your external appearance as a sum of parts. I never wanted to have a beauty company that would tell you this one product is gonna fix your whole problems, because that's not the case. Yeah. It's your appearance is, it's based on the products that you use, your mental health, your nutrition, stress, the quality of your sleep, exercise. It's really a sum of parts. And so that's really the story behind Kioro.
Here's a question everyone wants an answer for. What's the best age to start anti-aging skincare routine?
What do you think?
Ooh, feel like you're judging me, low-key.
No, I want to know what you're going to say before I answer you.
For some reason, everyone is a skin enthusiast, and I like to see the look on their faces when I talk about the sunblock situation.
The sunblock, yeah.
Oh, we got some really high UV rays here, by the way.
We really do.
Yeah,
we really do. So you definitely need to be wearing your sunblock. But
Yeah.
the answer to that
Would be
is
your
now.
20s? What, 30s?
Whatever that is.
Really?
You know,
Ugh.
because again, your skincare, it's a combination of things. You want to be taking care of your nutrition now. You want to be making sure that you're moving your body every day now.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you're getting quality sleep now. You want to make sure that you're going to the bathroom right now.
Yeah.
So, my answer is now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I never actually expect that one. But this is something really specific when it comes to men.
Yeah.
Skincare.
Right.
You know, the popular stereotype is men just don't care.
Don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
You know, they have one towel for their hair, for their face.
That's true.
You know, so what can you tell us about men's skincare?
Well, there is a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
You know, I think women are a little bit more fussy,
Oh yeah.
and men just kind of like a quick fix.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they don't want to spend too much time. And I realized that as well, which is why on Cure we just launched a new brand called Saunders and Long.
Shout
it's
out.
a complete.
Shout outs to my ashy friends. Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
All the
yeah.
boys there. So.
There you go.
So-
But you know, that's why I launched Saunders and Long, because it's a complete male skincare line. It smells beautiful and it's super simple. You just got a cleanser, you got a moisturizer, and you have a 5-in-1, Shaheen.
Okay.
I didn't even know there was a 5-in-1. I know a 3-in-1, but it's a 5-in-1 product where it's a shampoo, a conditioner, a body wash, a shaving cream.
Is that how? Is that how they're trying to make it so easy for men, just so they can?
A 5-in-1.
So I mean, what?
One and done.
I thought it was a meme. You know, I never really,
No.
I thought it was just meme all over Twitter. I never thought it was actually
No,
real.
no, I didn't even know there was a 5-in-1.
Oh wow. Oh wow. See, here you go. You guys are learning. You guys are learning. So, so spit it into big shout outs. You know, I hope you guys are enjoying this conversation. You know, we're learning a lot every time we get a guest here in the studio. It's always good to share their knowledge, their experience. You're also big when it comes to nutrition. So can you tell us about a diet that can really affect acne and also skin health in
Right,
general?
so it's directly related. The quality, you know, it's as basic as the quality of the food you eat determines the quality of your appearance, as well as your digestion. So if you're eating foods that are very inflammatory, then that's going to show up in your skin. If you're eating foods that's going to aggravate or cause an imbalance in your hormones, what I usually see, let's say if people are eating a lot of dairy, I'll notice that there's a lot of acne on their chin.
Yeah.
People having a lot of gluten, I'll notice their face is very swollen and they're having pimples around the jawline. So it's directly related.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, I've seen this one quote that said, everybody won't doubt you when you give them an unhealthy meal, but when you talk about a healthy meal, everyone turns into a researcher, you know?
That's true.
You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
minute you recommend something healthy,
Yeah.
everyone wants to pull out Google and they start telling you,
I know
oh,
that.
this is not true, this is an alternative.
Right.
But if you offer some fries and a burger, everyone is good to go, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I think more it's a mindset. How can you actually change this mindset? You know, and I've noticed that because especially with the younger generation, you know, they don't move a lot. They focus a lot on video games, staying at home, and they're eating a lot of highly processed sugar.
Yeah.
Obesity is a thing, you know.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
something that it really exists. We need to like talk about it openly,
Right.
you know. And I will try to get a couple of people down the road in the show to talk about this in specific.
Yeah.
To really focus on it, because I do notice it with the younger generation too.
Right.
You know, lack of movement, overeating,
Yeah.
always focusing on video games. You know, it really does affect a lot.
Exactly,
Not
yeah.
just on your health, physically, but also mentally.
Yeah.
We want to talk about nutrition. Can diet really affect? Sorry, this is the last question we have for you. You got to wrap it up. Sadly, producers are waving.
I'll be back next time.
Big shout outs to them. So, what's next for you? Any new ventures coming up?
There are, however, I think I'm just gonna tease your listeners.
Okay,
And
keep it a
you,
surprise. All right.
Shaheen?
All right.
And however, what I will tell you is that everything that I do will always go back to the concept of self-care. And
Okay.
a little hint is that this new venture could feel like a warm hug.
That's nice. That's nice. How can people follow up with you? If they want to see what's your...
You can follow me on my Instagram, Najla Al Fardan.
Okay.
I post everything that's going on there. If you want any skincare advice, you can follow Kioro. And if you want to get the game and get a little bit vulnerable with your friends and family and your partner, then you can check out the Instagram Moments Under the Sea.
Oh, big shout outs. There you have it. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
For being our great guest. Stick around every Thursday. We're going to have new people joining us every Thursday. It's all about the talk show culture here in Qatar. We want to connect you with great talents based here in the country. If you also want to be a part of our show, you can, send us a DM on our QBS page, QBS Radio FM. Follow us, tag your friends, and let us know your feedbacks. Big shout out to you. We got a couple of tracks coming up your way. Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers.